Did you know that over 88% of resumes never make it past the ATS and into human hands? If your resume isn't optimized, you could be missing out on amazing job opportunities without even realizing it. In this episode, I'll break down 4 simple yet powerful strategies to make your resume ATS-proof and recruiter ready. You'll learn how to use keywords strategically, structure your resume correctly, and avoid common formatting mistakes that get resumes rejected. And to make things even easier, be sure to grab my ultimate ATS-friendly resume pack. It's completely free. Inside, you'll get a winning resume template, a proven resume example, and AI-powered prompts to help you land interviews faster. Just click the link in the description or show notes to download yours now. Hey, I'm Heather Austin, a university professor turned entrepreneur, and I help job seekers land their dream roles with simple, actionable strategies that work. If you're ready to level up your job search, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and let's jump right in. So I want to share a framework with you to help you write that resume. All right, let me give you this framework really quickly. So when we think about the resume, I break it down into different parts, right? We're always going to have the top part of the resume. We're always going to have some sort of work experience. Now, if you don't have a lot of work experience, there's other things you can put there. But for the most part, most every single resume should have these parts to their resume. We're always going to have some sort of education and training section. This could also be certifications of some sort. And then we're also going to have skills and other sections. Now, this could be a variety of things. I'll give you an example of what that looks like in just a second. The very first part I want to talk about is the top part of the resume. Now, I don't have a separate slide that goes into detail on this. I have lots of trainings where I do go into detail on the top part of the resume. So take a screenshot of this if you need to. I have another clip that I'm going to share with you in a minute about an employer's perspective of your resume. And this kind of goes along with what he's telling us in our clip. So you're always going to start with the contact information at the top, right? That's going to include name, city, state, zip if you want. Sometimes you don't even have to put your city, state, zip. I still like to include city, state, zip, not the entire mailing address. I also always want you to have your email address and then your LinkedIn URL, and specifically a custom LinkedIn URL, right? That's always going to go on the very top part of your resume. Now, right below that, you're going to have a position-specific title. This is the title of the position you are applying for. In this example, I have customer service or customer success manager. Whatever job I'm applying for, that title is always going to change per the job. So you have to customize that title. The next area below that will be your 3 key skills. The 3 key skills are targeted skills specifically listed in the job posting that you are now going to put below the headline. In this example, it says client services, customer relationship management, and account management. Now, those 3 key skills, if I'm listing them on my resume, they better be in the job description. And if they're not in the job description, I'm not listing them, right? I'm listing only the top skills that they are asking for in the job description. Now, you can use AI to help you analyze a job description to say, hey, can you pull out the top 5 to 10 key skills from this job posting? Just extract it. Give me what those are. And it's going to give you those. And then you can put those on your resume as you see fit. Now, I want you to keep this in mind as well. If you are like, hey, Heather, I'm not an expert in client services, or I'm not an expert in account management. It's okay if you're not an expert. If it's a skill that they require and you can do that skill, or at least brush up really quick and get that skill kind of squared away before you get into the interview, then I want you to still list it. You do not have to list only your expert master level skills here. Now, below that, this is really, really, really important, is your professional summary. So the professional summary, I want you to think of this as an at-a-glance take on who you are, what you do, what you offer, who you can help, what you bring to the table, what your expertise are. Now, I have a very, very, very step-by-step process that I teach you inside of the Academy on how to write the summary. And we could spend quite a bit of time on the summary, but we have a lot to cover today. So this is just an idea to get you started on what that summary at the very top looks like. Now, the next thing that I want to look at in terms of our framework to our resume, right below that is going to be your work experience section. Now, let me preface this. If you have quite a bit of experience, right? Maybe we've got 10 to 20 years of experience or more. You can, before the work experience even starts, you can add a highlight section, a career highlight section. You could even include a core competency section. We are not going to go into detail on the highlights or the competencies again, because that's going to take us some time, but we do teach that step by step in the academy. But just know, if you're not including a highlights or a competency section, you can have your work experience section. The other thing I want to mention with work experience is the closer to the top, the better, because a lot of employers are looking at what you're doing right now. Most of them want to know, what are you doing right now? Or what have you been doing in the last couple of years? That's why that work experience section is super critical. Now, we're always going to have your bullet points that are results oriented, and I'm going to teach you how to do this in a second. We always want to have them be accomplishment oriented. If you can quantify them, that's amazing. That's awesome. The more quantifiable, the better. And then we're also always going to have it keyword heavy. So in terms of our framework for our resume, we have our summary at the top with our headline and our keywords, our key skills, and then we have the work experience section. If you have volunteer experience, you can include that in this section, or you can create a completely new section for volunteer experience. If you have a career gap, or if you are transitioning careers, last week in the live stream I taught a very specific methodology to writing a resume for people with career gaps and or transitioning industries. So take a look at that session if you need that. That was like a 60-minute or more session on just how to write your resume if you have a gap or if you are transitioning careers. Now, the next part to this framework is your education and your training. So I like this to fall under the work experience section unless you're a recent grad, or if you are currently attending college, you're a high school student, you're a junior high student, whatever it is. Education can then come to the top. But for almost everyone that is watching this live stream, you probably have some experience already. So that's going to come below the work experience. List your highest degree first. List any relevant coursework if you need to. Like if for some reason your degree isn't matching up necessarily with the industry you're applying for or the position you're applying for, but you maybe took a couple classes in that industry, you can list that. You want to make sure it's tailored to the position, and don't be afraid to combine this with certifications. So a lot of people will go to school, they'll get a master's degree, a bachelor's degree. Maybe that was like 10, 15 years ago, but maybe they're working on certifications that are relevant right now. Don't be afraid to put that in the education section and then rename it education and certifications. There's a lot you can do here. I always say there's a lot of ways to slice and dice a resume. Now, the final part to the framework is this next piece, which is your special skills and other sections. Now, I like to look at these as they're just kind of like additional areas that you can add to help highlight your best self. I always love a technical skill section, especially for any of my, I don't want to say my older workers because I'm like an older worker, right? But especially for anyone that has more than like 20 years of work experience, a technical skill section is great because it allows you to show that you're staying current with technology and trends. This is where you could put any AI training that you are getting or that you have had, which if you don't have AI training, I highly, highly, highly recommend you to start doing AI training, because what we're finding is that employers want to know that they're hiring employees that know how to use AI, right? The other type of section you could add is like a professional skills section if you wanted. You could have a whole separate section called volunteer experience. You could have professional memberships. You could have language competencies. You could have awards and honors. These are just a few additional sections. And it's just to give you an idea of what that would look like. Now, in terms of, I know there's a couple of questions that came in about how many pages should my resume be. In terms of the length of your resume, if you have less than 7 years of work experience, I want you to stick to a 1-page resume. In that case, you might have your summary, your work experience, your education, and then you might have room for like a technical skills section. If you have room for one more section, you could do professional memberships or something. If you have more than 7 years of work experience, I want to see you use a 2-page resume, because your work experience is going to go onto that second page, right? And then you still have to add education or certifications and training. And then you still are going to want to add a technical skills. And then if you still have space, add some professional memberships, add volunteer experience. There's a lot you can do. The thing I want you to remember here is you need to create and add sections that are going to highlight your best possible self and that are relevant for the position. Now, some last minute reminders when it comes to the formatting and when it comes to making your resume ATS friendly. So an ATS is a software or a system or whatever you want to call it that employers use to streamline the hiring process. They use these systems to cut out all the fluff and all the resumes and stuff that don't match the position so that they can then spend their time only on the positions that meet that company's requirements for that position, right? If a company is using some sort of ATS software, they look at a lot of different things. You don't want to have any columns or tables on your resume. That's a big, huge no-no. I don't want to see any images, charts, or graphics on your resume. You need to have clear hierarchy. So that means you have a section that's just your summary. Then you have a nice, pretty, beautiful title that says work experience. Then you have another nice, beautiful, pretty title that says education. Then you have another title that says technical skills, whatever that might look like. You need to have keywords and phrases that are specifically coming from the job posting. So if they're asking for a client success manager, you're using that terminology. But maybe they're asking for a customer service manager, then you're going to use that terminology. So you're using the terminology specifically from the job posting. And then of course, you're always using easy to read fonts. I want you to start with an 11-point font. If you need to go lower, turn it into a 10. If you need to go a little bit bigger, turn it into a 12. I also want you to stick with a simple font choice like Cambria. We've been putting all of our templates in Cambria. You could also use Calibri. I don't love Arial or Times New Roman because they're so overused, but just keep that in mind. Quick question for you. Is your resume ATS optimized? Let me know in the comments or DM me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to grab your free ATS-friendly resume pack, complete with a winning resume template, a proven resume example, and AI-powered prompts to help you land interviews faster. The download link is in the description or show notes, so go snag your copy now. If this episode helped you, hit that like button, subscribe, and if you're tuning in on the podcast, I would love for you to take a few seconds to rate and review. It seriously makes a huge difference. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next episode.